since I am in the hot seat today, I guess Marie and Penny, you guys get to run the show and start us off. So where do you want me to go from here?
So I would like to know about your childhood and growing up. Like, how was your early childhood years?
So whenever I was younger, we grew up in a small town and we were pretty poor, honestly. We didn't have a lot of money. My mom is like a psychopath, kind of. Just to put it lightly, she's a very big liar and she is very manipulative and like there's just a whole bunch of stuff wrong with her. We think she has some sort of mental disorder. We just don't know what it is. And she's never been diagnosed, but there's definitely like something there. And then my dad, he grew up as a Jehovah's Witness and was like beat regularly. And like he had a really, really rough childhood. So he kind of took that into having me. And my mom and my dad, they got married because of me, because they found
Right.
out that like I was coming and they were like, okay, we need to get married. We need to do this right. So we were broke. My mom tried running like a daycare for a long time and we got like forced out of town by the competition and all types of stuff. It was really weird. And then, yeah, I continuously kind of I was held to a very high standard and was again punished whenever something was not right. I was regularly hurt. And then whenever I got older and I figured out that was wrong and I started like getting my own personality and started doing my own thing, it kind of caused a lot of issues and me and my dad would butt heads a lot. And yeah, my mom continued like she always stole money from me and stuff like that. So there was always a lot of tension. She would always lie. Just she always like made up friends and stuff like that. It was weird. I don't know. There's all types of shit. So all that happened. So I decided whenever I finally got a job and was kind of doing my own thing, I was going to go out, hang out with my coworkers. We were all going to be having fun, and that is kind of when like the drinking and all that started. I started off drinking. I would smoke here and there. It wasn't usually anything crazy, but we would get drunk probably every weekend at first, and then it turned into drinking probably like I don't know, once every other day, once every 3 days, and it was blackout on the floor, puking your guts out, drunk. We were playing beer pong all the time, all types of stuff, and I never quite realized how much of a problem that was. Even after, like, I had times. I remember one time I was driving home from this little town that's like I don't know 8 miles outside of the town that I live in. I was out drinking in that town all night and I'm cruising home. Everything's cool. And I have no idea what's going on. I'm literally blacked out, completely blacked out. I don't even know I'm driving. So everything's cool. And all of a sudden I come to and I'm in my car and I'm driving and I'm like, oh shit, I'm almost home. Like I've been driving for the past like 10 minutes and had no idea. So I
Right.
pulled into my driveway and I just went to bed, but I woke up the next day and I was just like, how many times have I done that? Because I know I've ended up at home and not known how and not cared how,
Right.
but it kind of since I woke up in the middle of it, it was kind of like an eye-opening thing. But that lasted until the next time my people wanted to get drunk, and we just went and did it again. All that happened and I was kind of having my wild side after I broke up. I had this girlfriend through high school. Her name was Amanda and we were like it was that young love, right? So
Right.
you're attracted to them. We did a lot of things for the first time with each other and like she was the type of person she was very controlling, so she didn't want me around other people. She was always jealous if I was around another girl and all types of stuff. And we dated for a few years. And then when I broke up with her, that's about the same time I like started working, and started hanging out with other people. And of course, I decided to go buck wild because I was young and dumb and I was a guy. So I was out there doing my thing. Um,
We understand.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it.
So all this was going on, and as I'm in this like drinking stage where it's nonstop partying, Amanda tells me she's pregnant. We ended up like the last time we ended up doing anything was on Valentine's Day. And she at this point, she had just got with this new dude, Josh. So I'm like, okay, he's not mine.
Right.
It's amazing. We fooled around getting busy pretty much every day for like 2 years, and the entire time I don't get you pregnant, but I just happened to get you pregnant the last time we do anything. So I was like, I'm sketched out. I'm like, this is bullshit. She kept telling me, he has to be mine. We found out it was a boy. There's no question about it. He's mine. So I went with the assumption that he was, and it it was weird because she would go like 2 months without talking to me, and then she would talk again and want me in his life. And I kept telling her, I want to be in his life, but I need to know what the results are. So all
Right.
that continues. And one night when I was getting drunk, doing my thing, hanging with my people, and one night I all of a sudden get a call, and it is Amanda's mom. And I missed the call because I was doing my thing. I didn't hear the phone ringing, and I had a voicemail. Listened to it, and she's just like, "Hey, Amanda had the baby yesterday, and it's a boy. She told me the weight and all that stuff." And I was like, "Well, supposedly she wants me there, but didn't tell me she was in the hospital. Didn't tell me
Right.
anything." So this whole time, I'm also thinking this is my child that I just now missed the birth of and all this stuff. And at this time, I was like, I think 17 still. I was very young, and that kind of fucked me up for a little bit. Like I
Right.
started going on a big bender. We started doing blow a lot, and like that was something I hadn't really done a ton of. And that night, I remember for the first time I overdid it and just went crazy with it, and realized that I kind of liked it a lot.
Did you feel like you were doing that to numb the pain, the emotional pain? Like, did you recognize that at that time?
I knew what I was doing it for. Like I told myself, I needed to go get fucked up just to have fun and take my head out of all this stuff. But at that time, so you got to understand, I grew up in a small town. My parents, like, I didn't have an overwhelming amount of friends growing up because every time I made friends, my dad usually scared them away. So I didn't understand what addiction was really. Even with all the drug use and everything, I didn't understand the concept of addiction.
You were young too. You were
Right.
17.
Yeah.
So, I
Right.
mean, you're still young.
Yeah, so I was just kind of to the point. I was just enjoying myself. Nothing was
Right.
wrong. I didn't have a problem. There was nothing to lead me into a like direction of, hey, maybe I need to get some help or like talk to somebody because I'm using drugs for my problems. So all that kind of continued. We hit so I had a point where I was always hanging out with my guy TB, and shortly after Aiden was born, that was Amanda's child. She texted me, she was like, "Hey, you want to meet up? You want to meet Aiden?" And I was like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna go, but we're going to Amanda's mom's house. Josh is there, and I'm like, Josh is gonna piss me off. Let me bring my guy TB, and we're gonna go to the house, and I'm gonna meet Aiden, and everything's gonna be cool." Whenever I got there, Josh was holding Aiden and wouldn't let me hold him or like touch
Wow.
him or anything. And it kind of turned into a whole thing where it was like Amanda almost ambushed me and was like, "Hey, I just really wanted to talk to you." And like Aiden was left to the side with Josh the whole entire time. And
Wow.
that's why I was glad I took TB, because it got to the point where like me and Josh almost got in a fight because I was like, "Dude, give me my child," and all types of stuff. And TB just had to pull me out and like, "Hey, we can't be doing this here. This isn't gonna end well."
So she basically made you come there for false pretenses.
Yep.
You're thinking that you're going to see your child and you're
Yes.
all revved up. And then you get there and you see this dude and you're like, flipping. Like smoke would be coming out of my head.
The hard part was she was only with him because she wasn't with me. If at any time I would have said, I want to be with you again, she would have said, all right, cool, and would have been with me. But because of him, there were just a whole bunch of complications. Every once in a while, Amanda wouldn't talk to me for like months, and she would try and hide Aiden and hide where she was and all types of stuff. So that was always in the back of my mind. During this time, I started I started using a lot of different things. Like I was using everything under the sun, wasn't a big deal. I don't think I had actually took pills at this point. Like I used everything else, but I don't think I had got to the point of opiates. I moved out the day I turned 18, just because my mom was so crazy and everything.
Wow.
I convinced
We
my
have similar
I
stories. We have
know.
similar
I'm
I
stories.
feel like a
resonating with
lot of
this
us
so
do.
much.
Right. All of us. I'm like, it's like a clock. I'm like,
I'm just waiting for this next words to come out. I'm just
right.
like,
Me too.
Well, in mine, so mine was bad. Whenever I moved out, we couldn't actually get a place, but we ended up subletting an apartment that we weren't really subletting, but the people that own the place, they were letting it happen. So I ended up moving out with this chick Courtney and this other chick Emily that I worked with, and like their boyfriends were two of my best friends. Like
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, Courtney's boyfriend was T-Shab, and then the other dude was Jesse, which me and him were super cool. So we were all kicking it all the time. We had our own place, and everything was kind of leveling out to where I could just focus on Amanda and Aiden and try and figure out the baby situation. We still kicked it, still partied, still did our thing. Where it started getting bad was after it was like 2.5 months. Emily ended up finding a dog. I don't actually know how she found this dog, but she got this dog, brought it in the apartment and wanted to keep it. We weren't allowed to have dogs. So that was already an issue and we were just like, you're gonna get us kicked out, you need to get rid of this dog. She kept putting it off, and the dog every night whenever she would leave kept fucking barking nonstop all the time. So after it probably was only going on for like a week, and then all of a sudden one night we're all there. We get a knock on the door. It's like 7, 8 o'clock at night, and the person who owns the place is like, "You guys need to be out by tomorrow night." And we weren't on an actual lease. We weren't on
Ooh.
anything. We
Yep.
were just being allowed to live there. So
Lesson
we
learned.
couldn't do that. Right.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, cool, no big deal. I'll live in my car for a little bit. It's gonna be all good. So pack all my shit in my car. Make sure everybody else is good. Emily, I didn't give a fuck about. Like you got us kicked out, so you can go to hell.
Amen.
But Courtney, I wanted to make sure she was good because me and her were always really good friends. And once they were fine, I got in my car, turned the key, and the car wouldn't start.
I knew you were just gonna say that. Like I literally knew that. Oh my God. Go
And
figure, right?
it was super shitty. I don't know what the problem was, but it wouldn't start. So I'm like, cool. Now I can't live in my car, so I am
Right.
homeless. And I was trying to figure out what to do. So I ended up kind of floating around for a little bit and was just living outside. It was in February, late February, I think.
Cold.
So it was cold. I didn't know what I was doing because I hadn't like lived outside. I wasted a lot of my money on drugs.
Right.
So I didn't have that much extra. But I ended up talking to T-Shab and was like, hey, bro, I really need a place to go. Do you think I can kick it with you at your parents' crib? And they said yes. So then
Wow.
we had a place to go. I stayed there. His mom ended up paying to get my car fixed, and I ended up paying her back. And
How were you making money? How were you
Oh.
making money at all this time? Like,
Good question.
So I was selling at this time every once in a
okay.
while. It was little shit. It was just like weed and stuff like that. but I was selling, and then I had a job, just a regular. I think at that time, I was still working at a grocery store.
Okay.
So it wasn't anything crazy. The criminal side of things hadn't really popped up yet. So I stay at T shops, get the car fixed. Everything's starting to look up. I hadn't really thought about like Amanda and all that at the time. Now,
Right.
since I'm living with T Shop, he is also one of those people that is very into recreational use of a lot of different substances. And me and him started getting really bad with Adderall. He
Oh,
had a script and he would get like, I don't know, 90 of them or whatever. That shit would be gone in a matter of days. We would put all
right.
of it up our nose. And that was the first, I think that was the first thing I really noticed, like, hey, this is starting to become a problem because when we didn't have it, we were going everywhere looking for it. And if we couldn't find that, we were
Right.
getting cola. So that kind of started becoming a thing. And since I didn't actually have a place, I still had all my stuff in the back of my car. We're cruising to his house, like shortly before I move out of his place and get a place with TB. We're cruising to his place. It's like probably 11 o'clock at night, midnight on Easter. And we go through the main town next to the town that he lives in. It's this little racist ass, super crappy place. And we drive through and there's a couple of cops on the side of the road.
Oh,
So we pass them, we aren't doing anything wrong, everything's straight. And then all of a sudden I notice that they're following us. And I'm like, what the hell? Like we did absolutely nothing wrong. This should be cool. They pull us over and I find out my license plate light is out. Which I was like, okay. And I had just got pulled over for that, cause I had just got my car fixed. Like it was like 3, 4 days before. It wasn't long before. And the cop was like, hey, you're good. Just make sure you get it fixed. And
right.
we with it and we reattached the wire and it was good. So the wire just kept coming loose, and I didn't know that yet. So they pull us over, and they start like checking all our shit, and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" We tell them, "Hey, we're just trying to head home. We just got off of work a little bit ago." And the cops. So one of the cops was Officer Bowman, and the other one was Officer Clark. Uh, Officer Bowman was an old LAPD, I think he was LAPD, like SWAT. So he was the type of guy that like blew every situation up and it was a big deal and all types of stuff. And as he's talking to us, he sees some little Swisher sweets in my like console on the side. And he's like, I know what you kids do with those, yada yada. I know you're smoking all this stuff. And I was like, well, actually, I actually just smoked these because I did. I was like, no, I literally just I liked the Swisher sweets. They were peach flavored. They're my favorite. I smoked them all the time. So I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, well, what's all this shit back here? Because I had all my belongings in the back of my car. And I'm just like, I explained to him, I told him everything that had happened. Like, this is the situation I'm in. And he kept telling me, you need to get out of the car.
So basically, they were stigmatized in the fact that your car was loaded with like lots of clothes. You looked homeless, like you were living out of your car, drug addict, like they stigmatized.
Yes.
Hardcore.
Well, and here's the catch. Here's what he explained was the issue. So you could see in the back seat, since my car was a piece of crap, I had a screwdriver, a flashlight,
Yeah.
hammer, something else.
Oh
So
no.
I had a
That
couple
you're
of tools,
robbing, right? That
Yeah.
you're breaking
and I
into
had all that
places.
stuff.
Oh no.
There had been a
What?
string of burglaries in the town
Of
recently,
course.
and he tried saying because of those tools, it was us.
Ah,
Go
So
figure.
So that's his probable cause, which is
Right.
bullshit. You can have tools in your car that he's full of shit.
Right.
So they literally dragged us out, put us in cuffs, put us on the curb, and started searching everything. And he found a lockbox in my car. So the lockbox only had a passport, some pictures of Aiden, and there was something else, some random shit that I knew of.
Right.
What I didn't know is that there was also a couple of pipes in there from this other girl that was picking it at the apartment for a little
You
bit.
got done dirty.
Yes.
She ended up throwing that shit in there because
Oh.
she had just moved in and she got kicked out too, but she had been there for like 2 days. So she threw that shit in there and I didn't notice. I locked it up, closed it. So he's talking about everything in there. He's trying to search it, takes the lockbox, and he's like, he tells me to open it, which I can't do. I have no idea where the fucking key is. And I tell him like, hey, I can't help you. So he takes the lockbox and then he asks me again where I live, and I tell him I'm with T-Shop right now. And he keeps telling me, if you're fucking lying to me, I'm gonna hunt your ass down and all types of shit.
Wow.
So yeah, so at some point after all this happened, we're still sitting there, we're still cuffs, and Officer Bowman's looking through everything, and he like turned around, and when he turned around, I think I was just like adjusting like that, and he said that I was trying to get up to rush him, and that I was going to attack him.
Wow.
So he ran at me, knocked me down, started like kicking me and stomping on my face and all types of stuff. And then T-Shop tried getting up because he was doing that. So T-Shop was going to push him off me. And
Right.
Officer Clark came over and started doing the same thing to him. And then after we were like literally just laying there, he was like, we're going to hold on to this lockbox. And then they left. Yeah, and that was it. And on the way back to T-Shop.
Wait, hold up. They left. They took the box. You got no tickets, no charges, no nothing. Corruption. Corruption.
Big time.
So
Corruption.
to give you guys an idea of this police station, they had a noose in their police station until I think it was 87. They were super racist. They were the type of people that would deal drugs out and then like arrest the same person just because they were horrible people.
I bet you after that, you guys went and got high because you're like, that rush of like, oh my God, I almost got locked up. Oh my God, that fear. You probably went and you got yourself rocked that night.
Well, that was my thing too. We didn't have anything on us at the time. So I didn't think I was going to get locked up. I was just trying to go home. It was about to be Easter. So all that shit happened and I'm just like, fuck it. Like we're going to be okay. I didn't know anything was in the lockbox yet and they ended up breaking it open. They got a warrant or whatever. And I ended up doing like community service and shit to get it like cleared off my record so I would still be clean. While I was doing all that, I met a dude who was a very big dealer of a lot of different things. And I started getting into more of like, I'm selling everything I can for you. And I started taking a lot more stuff. So I ended up moving in with my buddy TB and Blake and Rosie. And we all got a townhouse. Everything was good for a little bit. We ended up throwing some wild parties. It was a little like shit ass townhouse and we probably had 70, 80 people over there every like Friday, Saturday night.
Dude, I remember those days.
That's a jump.
Kinda not.
Well, we were crushing, we would usually crush a keg. We could take out one keg in like an hour, if that. It was sometimes less. So that's the type of lifestyle I was on. Ambien for a little bit during that time, and we were all using Ambien. I was taking it as I was supposed to. The other guys were abusing Ambien, and they would end up like blacking out all the time, and cops would show up, and they would have no idea what the fuck was going on. And during this time, I started working overnights. So then I started missing a lot of the parties, and I just got pissed off about it. And we ended up leaving because like two of the guys weren't paying bills because drugs and all types of stuff. So yeah, it was constant shitty situation after shitty situation. And while while we lived there is when I met my ex-wife. And she worked at the grocery store that I worked at because I went to a different grocery store to work overnights, and she worked there too. We would see each other every once in a while, and she would show up every night. And once the bars would close, because we're in a college town and it was like a college grocery store, she would show up after the bars closed, completely hammered, and it would be my lunch break. And she would be like, "Hey, you want to come over and kick it?" And, whatever. So we would go to her place, do our thing. And that was cool for a little bit. Didn't plan on taking anything serious, didn't plan on nothing. Like it was all good. And I ended up getting her pregnant because back when I was young, I was stupid and I didn't think about things like
You never do. You never do.
I didn't wear condoms.
That's normal though. But you know what? That's normal though, I feel like, and it needs to be normalized because
Amen.
a lot of people do that.
So yeah, all that happens. I get her pregnant. We find out, and it's like, okay, we have to get married because I'm still in that boat where I've got that old school thinking. If I got you pregnant, we have to get married. There is no
Right.
other option. So I didn't.
When all this pregnancy thing happens, did you have like a moment of like PTSD? Like, oh my God, is this going to be the same situation? Is this going to be the same outcome?
I don't think I did, purely because with her, I was still with her. So it was like, everything's going to be okay. Now, I wasn't happy, but I was still with her. So she's not going to take this child from me. She can't because we're still together.
You were more confident. You were confident
Right.
about it. Okay.
Right. So I thought everything was cool. And I think at this time, I was 19-ish, somewhere around there.
So you're very young to
Yep.
have
Oh, yeah.
2 children at
Yes.
that time. Like, that's a lot of responsibility,
Big time.
even though you weren't, you didn't really know about your first child, like what was up with it.
Yeah.
Well, and at this time, I had probably only met Aiden 4 or 5 times. That was it. Like it wasn't anything crazy. I had seen Amanda a couple other times, but that was really it. So, kind of fast forward, we end up getting married. Everything's, I guess, cool. Once I put that ring on her finger, she showed who she truly was because she knew she was secure, and I already wouldn't have ever like picked her to be my wife, but she showed that like she doesn't care about anyone but her. And for everyone listening, like, I'm not trying to talk shit about my ex-wife. This is literally the type of person she is. She saves face. She has to look good for everybody else and will tear down whoever she has to so she looks good. So I just started seeing things where I was like, okay, this is stupid. Jax was born, and I was young. He was a little baby. I'm working overnights, and every day while I'm working, I would probably only get like 4 hours of sleep a night max. So I was always super tired. I was just in a shitty place. And there was one point where I was like in an office upstairs in the grocery store. And one of my managers opened the door. And whenever he opened it, he was pissed off and he threw it open, not knowing that I was like right there. And I had my back turned. And the doorknob was one of those like skinny, sharp ones.
Oh,
So
no.
whenever he threw it open, it went flying right into the bottom of my spine. And I literally like fell on the ground. I couldn't move for a little bit. It was a whole bunch of shit. But I
Wow.
went to the doctor because I was in so much pain. And this is when the pills kind of get started because she prescribed me 10 milligram hydros 3 times a day. That was it. Nothing crazy. I took them as prescribed for 3 months, and then after like the 3 months, at the end of the 3 months, I felt like everything was kind of getting better. The pain was pretty much gone. So I told my doctor, hey, I don't need these anymore. All good. And then that night, once I finished up my last ones, I started noticing,
Right.
like, hey, this kind of sucks. Why do I not feel good? Because I literally knew nothing about withdrawals. And so many people talk about you should educate yourself about the medications you get and all types of stuff. Again, back then you just trusted your doctor. Your doctor knew what they were doing. Like, there
Yes.
was, why would you look up a medication? Your doctor said this was okay, so it should be okay. I
And then the other thing is you're already doing other substances, so
Mhm.
you don't really care what you put into your body. Like you're in that like, hey, I'll take whatever, I'll do whatever phase.
Hmm.
Well, and it was just like, I'm not, I wasn't abusing it either. So it's
Right.
like, who cares? You have, in my mind, you have to be abusing things to get hooked on it. Like that. So it was never even a thought.
Right.
And I ended up taking all those, getting off. And that night, whenever I went to work, it was, now I thought it was horrible. I had no idea what horrible withdrawals were at this point. But it was kind of rough. I had the pain, had the brain fog. I was a mess, and I had no idea what was going on. So I talked to my buddy Kojak, and he was like, "Oh, bro, I know exactly what's going on. You've been on those pills. You're going to withdrawal."
Hey, you always have we always have that one friend that can hook you up with whatever you need.
Always. Hmm.
Always.
Yes.
And I didn't even know, because so I was Kojak's boss. I was the manager at the time. So I didn't know what all he did, but I found out that night he messed with all types of stuff, and he had what he called a Cody cocktail, which was a blue, two Zans, a Valium, two Norcos, and you take all that at once.
I would have been all over that.
All over it goes.
Well, and so, I be messing with the stuff, but I was like,
Right.
I'm at work, I'm not gonna go crazy. Which one of these can I just take this and it'll get rid of this withdrawal? And he said, take that blue, that little 30. And I'm like, all right, cool, I take that. And that was so much more than I was used to. I was like, I was high. I was lit. I was feeling good.
I bet.
Man, this is great. I killed it at work that night. I went home. I was playing with Jax all day. Everything.
Yeah, you're in a better mood with the kids.
Oh,
You
yeah.
want to play.
In,
Right.
Instead of being tired and wanting to lay on the couch all day,
Yep.
I like was up and ready to go. And so that turned into, hey man, can I get another one of those? I'm just gonna do this a few times, and it's not gonna be a big deal. And he was talking to me like, oh yeah, you can take it like this, and you won't go through all those withdrawals, and it won't be as bad. So I started doing that. Next thing I know, it had been months. I mean, months had gone by where I was getting them every single day. I started getting to the point where I was taking like two at a time, then I'd like
Right.
two a couple of times a day, and it escalated to the point where I think at that point I was taking like 180 milligrams a day after a little while.
Did that get expensive? Did that
Oh, hell yeah.
was it hard for you to come up with the ways to get it or no?
So it was and it wasn't, because so he would sell so many different things. I was taking those and I was selling like the bars.
Okay.
So I
I
could
get it.
usually pay for it if I
Yeah.
didn't. Now, I didn't make shit. I would work my ass off 40 hours a week, and I would probably go home with, I don't know, $600. Like,
Right.
it was.
And you had a baby. We know
Yes.
babies are expensive. Diapers, all that formula.
Well, and I had convinced myself I needed all of those so I could be a good dad, because whenever I got home, I was so tired because I worked overnights and was getting no sleep that like I could actually stay up and be a dad and be good. And so I just convinced myself of a lot of shit. So all this is happening. Kojak ends up getting fired after a little bit for stealing. And what happened? So we ended up getting like a new cashier. We ended up getting like all types of new people, right? And I'm still messing with Kojak. I start finding like a whole bunch of other people that are in the game and mess with all types of stuff. We have this one cashier. Her name was, I think it was Melissa. And one day I'm in there doing my thing. Now, Annika, my ex-wife, she works in the coffee shop in the grocery store that I work at. So she works for
Okay.
the company. I'm in there doing my thing. The general manager shows up and everything's cool. He's with the loss prevention dude. His name's Hercule. Everything's all right. And they pull me upstairs and they start talking to me about we had some alcohol. The audio cuts out in this part, but I talk about how we had liquor and cigarettes being stolen for about a year and a half, about $13,000 worth. So they start asking me about all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I still don't know who's doing it. And they're like, oh, well, we put in new cameras last night, and we've been recording everything, and we were watching everybody. And it was Gary, the GM. It was his last day at that store, and before he left, he decided he was going to catch whoever was doing it. So they
Right.
started telling me I was the one that stole that stuff. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. And I, honest to God, I had nothing to do with it. Did not. I knew it was happening, but I wasn't quite sure who.
And when I get accused of something that I know that I didn't do, oh my God, you better watch out.
Yes.
Better freaking watch out
Yes.
because I will prove you wrong.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's what I was ready to do. And their only evidence that it was me, they had me on tape going and getting 4 packs of Newports because we had a regular that we had like self checkouts up there, so everybody kind of did their own thing. But we had a regular that came in. He always gets 4 pack of Newports every time he comes in. So I went ahead and grabbed those, put them at the self checkout station. Was like, Melissa came back and I was like, hey, these are dudes. Whenever he comes up here, you already got him. You don't have to go behind the desk.
Right.
So
You were trying to you were trying to,
proactive.
right. Absolutely.
So
Man.
so everything was good, but they tried saying I stole those because then she went and took those 4 packs and she put them in her car because she was the one that had been stealing because she's up front. We're in the back. We're stocking. We're cleaning up the store. We're taking care of all the drunk college kids. I didn't have time to babysit her all the time. So she, whenever she had a chance, whenever no one was paying attention, she'd just grab a bottle of Goose here and there. And they found like that night, they found like 6, 7 bottles of booze
Uh-oh.
in her car. And then she had a whole bunch of cigarettes. She was doing it every fucking night almost. So
Wow.
so Gary didn't want to look stupid. So he tried saying there was no way she could have done this by herself. There had to be an accomplice, and I was the one with keys. So it had to be me. So I told him, like, hey, dude, I'm not doing anything. Whatever your problem is, like, I'm more than happy you can sit here and go through every inch of film you have. It's whatever. And they didn't
Right.
want to do all that. So they told me I was going to write down and confess that I did this, or not only was I going to be fired, but my wife was going to be fired too. Because, good.
You got put between a rock and a hard spot, dude. And honestly, I don't know what I would do in that situation but me, I would fight that. I'm a fighter. Like
Yes.
you say something about me and
Yes.
it's true. We are fighting. I will clear my name.
But you got to remember, we got a baby. We got
Right.
a brand new baby, and we're both about to lose my job if I don't
Yeah.
sign
You
this
got
paper.
scared. You
Yeah.
got scared.
So
Yeah.
so I ended up signing it. I got taken to jail and had to do a little bit in there. And then I got out, went through all the court and all that stuff, and I can't remember exactly how it went because I kind of like blocked it out. But during the time all this stuff was happening, I just continued to use so fucking much.
Right.
And then it turned into like everything was cool. I didn't have to go back to jail or anything. It was just on my record. And I think after that, I started working at Walmart randomly for a little bit. And then Amanda came back in the picture. She was having me see Aiden here and there. She was being cool. She had broke up with Josh. Um, she continued, like, she kept telling me, if you leave Annika, we can go get married. We can go do all this stuff. Like, she was crazy about it, because she was trying to butter me up. And
Right.
after, like, we saw each other a couple of times, she kept, like, trying to fuck and all types of stuff. But after we saw each other a couple of times, she finally told me that she had lied about Aiden and that Aiden was not mine.
I have a question.
Um,
In the few times that you did see Aiden, were you looking for resemblances? Were you trying to be like, does he have my nose? Like, is
you'll
there any
make
similarities?
you'll make that stuff up in your head if you believe it enough.
See?
Did
Yeah.
you have like that real connection, or did you kind of not have that? Like before
With
you
Aiden,
found out about Aiden, like did you have that like bond? You know what I'm saying? Like that, like there's a bond. You can either have a bond or you don't, kind of a thing.
Right.
And I
it,
was just wondering, like, did you have that, or was it kind of like in the middle, if that makes sense?
it
Like,
wasn't the bond in the way you're thinking. I know what you mean, but I hadn't seen him enough.
okay,
Right.
yes, that's what I,
So
that's what I mean. That's what I
yeah,
was. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
it was more of like the thought of him.
okay.
That was what I held on to.
There you go. Yeah.
So she tells you that he's not your child.
Yep.
And
And
there you go again.
I flipped out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know, she was all upset about it and all that stuff. So I find that out, and I just, over the course of the next couple of times I saw her, I asked her why, and she finally answered. So supposedly, and I kind of believe her now, she was talking to this dude that, like, I knew of, from a long time ago. She had just kind of been hanging out with him every once in a while. Hadn't done anything, wasn't dating, and at some point he slipped her some X and then raped her. And that is how Aiden was born. So that is why she continuously lied about me being the dad, because she knew Josh wasn't the dad and didn't want him to be. Yeah. But that all happened, and then shortly after that, I found out that Annika was cheating on me with.
Oh
So
my God.
I kind of wondered, because I didn't care about her. She didn't care about me, really. Like, she didn't care about anyone but herself. But I found out she was cheating on me with this dude, Wes. That was from, like, North Carolina or Georgia. He was in Georgia. But they would see each other every once in a while because they were like longtime family friends, and like her family would go up there sometimes. It was a whole thing. So once I found that out, I was like, cool, bet. I'm leaving her. I'm getting a divorce. I go to work the next day, and then whenever I get home, she has the divorce papers all ready. She went.
Oh, she was already preparing for that
Oh,
situation.
No,
oh,
she called into work that day so that she could file first, so
oh.
that she would get Jax, so that I could look like the bad guy.
Wow.
I told you, she will do anything and break anybody down so that she can be on top and look like she's the good person.
I think we
She
all
tried
have
to
that
one
in
up
our
you.
lives. We've all been Marie, you, me. We all have
All been through
definitely.
those. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was, I don't know. I was happy about it because I wanted it, but I didn't understand what her filing first actually meant.
Right.
Because at least in Illinois too, and the judge we had, it is mom gets their way, and that's it. It doesn't matter what's going on.
It was very similar to your situation, Penny.
Yeah.
Very similar to Penny, remember?
Yeah. My judge favored fathers, so
Which that's like super rare.
it is. It is very rare, and it's just my luck.
Well, and so all this happened, and after Aiden and her and all types of stuff, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get back with Amanda, and I thought about it, and we kind of like talked for a little bit, and there was a whole thing, and I really don't know why it didn't work out. It just didn't.
It's very similar to my situation with my first like person.
Yeah.
And it was like we were almost addicted to each other more than we were addicted to the drugs, if that makes any sense. Like
I'm
there
about
was such a strong, like I would walk through fire for him. I would
yes.
do anything, anything. But we were like oil and vinegar. We didn't mix. When you put them in a bottle, they separate
Mhm.
for a reason. Because it was bad. It was bad.
And I still kind of feel like it could have worked and it probably would have been okay. I guess it was just the wrong time. That was all it was. And she was crazy, but I was kind of crazy too. And
Right.
it worked out.
Dude, it's like that. It's a trauma, like Penny said. It's like there's a force there that makes you just keep going back to each other.
I think it was like a combination of her not working out, me finding out about Aiden, and then Annika, me and her getting divorced. I was going to court every single month, and was constantly like losing in the battle to get Jax, and was being
Yeah.
told like you're gonna take. So whenever I first went to court, I ended up starting my child support. I think it was at like 38% of my paycheck, which is illegal. It's supposed to be like 20.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot for one
I know. I
child,
that's
too.
a lot.
For one child.
Yes.
So I was getting shafted just because it just I had the wrong judge basically. So it was kind of a cascade. It was one thing after another, kind of sucked, and there was comfort in the drugs.
Yes.
That's all there was.
Very
Now, were you failing like like did you have to do drug tests or anything like for any reason?
Nope.
So your wife never brought up that fact in court? Wow, I'm surprised. Honestly,
Yeah,
I'm
thank
really
goodness.
shocked because as like you said, you would think that she would try to.
Yeah.
She didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Very
I'm
important.
telling y'all, and I've said it a couple of times. I was a very highly functioning addict, and not like if I didn't want you to know, you probably were not going to know until it was too late.
Wow.
Can I say something? I was the same way. Nobody knew that I had a problem until I came out and was like, look, I know, but I have an issue. And they were like, so I
Wow.
can relate to that big time. I understand.
Well, and it was so obvious if you knew what to look for.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Back then, like you're broke all the freak. That was the big
Right.
thing. You're broke all the time. Like
Well, I think going back like 10 years ago, we didn't talk about addiction.
Right.
It was something that was shameful.
Yes.
You were ashamed to say that you had a problem.
Yes.
So it's not open like it is now. Recover out loud and do,
Yes.
be loud and proud.
Mhm.
It was very shameful.
at that time, I had not like found AA or NA or
Right.
anything either. So it was like the only people I could have talked to was the people that were dealing the stuff to me. I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
But this, like, whenever all that happened, I ended up going back to my parents' house and I lived with them for a little bit, which I didn't want to do, but I
Right.
was so broke because I was using. I mean, I couldn't keep anything. I couldn't pay bills or whatever.
And child support.
And child support. Well, that
Right.
came out of my check automatically.
Right,
So it
but
was
still,
nice.
that's a big chunk.
That if it hadn't been for that coming out of my check automatically, it would have been gone.
It would have never got paid, probably.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so all that happened. So this is when I started working in the restaurant business. And so I started working in the restaurant business, started doing all types of stuff. Our restaurant was connected to another restaurant, and you could like go down in the basement, and there was like a little area in between where there was just a door in the way. And the the GM of the connecting restaurant was another one of the biggest dealers in town.
Go
So
figure.
so all I had to do while I made my tips and everything was send him a text and say, "Hey,
Oh,
bro, I'm good," and we would meet downstairs and I would get my stuff. So it was a lot of access. It was still cheap back then. It was so nice. I was probably paying like he almost always got blues, and I was probably only paying like $8 for a blue.
wow.
So yeah, so and I got to the point I was taking about 300-ish milligrams a day. I didn't have anything at my parents' house because I was so poor.
At this time, were you seeing your son?
I would get him like it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. It was something weird. Because I worked on the weekends so much that I would get him during the week for
But you still saw him,
Yeah.
so
yep, yep.
okay.
Because we had joint custody, but she had the majority of
Physical
the
custody.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was kind of everything stabilized except for the drug use. And I started talking to T Shop again, and he had got on methadone. And I was like, oh, what's methadone? Let me check this out. Well, he didn't tell me like a ton of the ins and outs of how it worked, but he was like, hey, bro, I'll sneak this out for you. And he would get his little liquid dose. Instead of taking it, he would have a spare bottle and he would like just put his hands down kind of and he would dump the dose in there and then put it back on the counter for the nurse.
I don't know how he got away with that because
Yeah.
I've gone to
Neither
methadone
do
clinics for
I.
years and it's like they check your mouth and everything. Like, wow.
And that's why I was super surprised. And I had took methadone a couple of times before in pill form from Kojak, my other guy. So it was like I knew about it, but I didn't know about it like that because that was always like 10 milligrams or whatever. And every once in a while we'd get the wafers, but it wasn't
The
in
40s. Yeah.
this was at like 140 milligrams of liquid, and
And Meg was just saying, and Meg, I have to say, because my first thoughts was the same thing. They used to spit it, they would put it in their mouth and then spit it out when they walked
Can
out.
I say, I knew people that would put cotton balls in their mouth so it would soak up
yeah,
in the
that's
cotton
smart.
balls and then
Yep. Because
I
I
wouldn't do it.
honestly, I just don't understand how he could have poured it into
I
another
know.
bottle. Like the cap, it's
That
too
takes
much.
guts too.
Yep.
Well, maybe he spit it out into another bottle, but he always had because I always had to bring him a container
Yeah.
to do it with.
Yep.
But who cares? I was getting high.
Right. Shit.
Yeah.
Listen, anything to take that feeling out of your body,
Oh yeah.
anything.
Amen.
And it got to the point with methadone. Obviously, at first I was getting lit, but it got to the point I like stabilized on it. So I was actually okay. I was having to take him to the clinic all the time, and I was still kind of in the life, but I could sell, I could do everything I wanted to, and I was stable.
Why didn't you just go to the clinic?
I didn't know how it worked. I
Because
didn't
you're taking him, you're literally driving him to go get you medicine, but you could have just did the same thing.
I think my problem was because again, I had no clue how any of this worked. I thought that if I went in there, like my parents were gonna find out, or
Okay,
my
shame.
job.
More
Yes.
of shame.
Yes. Stigmatizing. Yeah.
And,
I
and
understand though,
Yes.
because my story and your story are so much alike.
oh yeah. Well,
So,
I think the biggest thing I I was afraid to do anything that was related to like drug use or anything in that way because if the court found out what was
right.
so it was all under wraps, but this is when I met Shan, and so whenever I was on methadone, everything was good. I had been using it for over a year at that point. I met Shan. Shan and I are cool. We get to talking and we start going out, and she doesn't know anything that I'm doing. I think I had like a little lapse where I was getting pills at that time too. It was a whole little thing because I went a short stretch where I didn't have anything, but I was fine. Like I didn't withdraw, I didn't anything, just the way I took everything.
And it's the way you took it, plus it's the way like it's a new relationship. So
Mhm.
you're trying to make sure like there ain't nothing seen. Like you want to be
Yes.
on your best
Yes.
behavior.
I try and tell people all the time, if you can like get in a new relationship whenever you get off whatever you're using, it puts like so many endorphins and shit in your head. You'll be
Right.
fine. Like you won't
Mhm.
even
That's what I was
know.
thinking.
But I was with Shan for 3 months and moved. I ended up moving into her apartment with her to get out of my parents' house because my mom had walked in on something happening. And I was like, yeah, that's not happening again.
Right.
Um, so we ended up like moving into her apartment, kids and all that nonsense.
Now
And
did she have kids prior?
yep, she had two because she's got the oldest two. I have Jax, and then we have Carson. So there was a little bit of a dynamic where like
A blended family.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was cool. But after it was like a month after I moved in, I ended up going to tea shops one day, and I was like calling him, texting him, all this stuff. He wouldn't answer, and I'm like, "What the fuck? Why aren't you answering?" Sometimes he would sleep in, shit would happen. So I go over to his place, and his girl is there, and she's like, "Oh, tea shop dropped dirty," so he ended up getting locked up,
Oh,
and now my methadone is gone. So
damn.
yeah.
Oh, that's a hit. That is a hit. That is a hit.
Well, and
Huge
I had gone so long without a steady pill connect, I didn't know who to call because
Right. You
everybody
felt
had changed their number at that point and shit.
Kyle, my story and your story are so similar in so many ways. It's crazy that the
hit.
universe put us together.
Oh, I know.
Can I
It
pause this?
is.
Yeah, you're
I
good.
hate to go. I have to fly.
You're
I'm so
good.
sorry,
You're
you
good. You're good.
We
guys.
love you,
I
Penny.
enjoyed
Thank
I
everything.
you.
cannot wait to catch the replay on this because I'm just like edge
I've
of
got
my
you.
seat. So
I've got you.
thank you.
There's my boy.
Oh,
There's my
there is
girl.
even right here. Okay,
Merry
sorry,
Christmas,
guys.
guys. So you're feeling super stuck at this point. Like, oh my God, I have no connections. I don't know who to call, what to do, where to go.
Well, and this was the first, no, I take that back. This was the second time I was really considering H, because I was like,
Right.
oh, that'll fix things. So what ended up happening is I had a panic attack at work that day, like freaked out because I knew what was coming. And I literally told them, like, it was a family owned restaurant and everything. So I'm like, I'm going to be good. I told them, hey, I need a week off work, just a week. And I thought it was like pills, so I'll be okay. So I get prepared. I told Shan, I told her it was pause. And that was because I told her that I was off of pills already because
I get it. So you're telling her, so you didn't want to admit that you were actively using.
right. And well,
Yeah.
and I had got off them for a second and I thought I could hide everything.
Right.
So I start going through it, and methadone withdrawals cold turkey off. It was about 120, 130
I've done it.
milligrams. It sucks ass. It was like 9 days of hell. I went back to work the 10th day, and I think I finally stopped feeling all of it like the 22nd, 23rd day. But yeah, it sucked. Your bones feel like they're on fire. You can't sleep. You can't move. You can't.
I
It's
remember that.
horrible.
Did you have any like psychological things going on? Because I went into like a straight psychosis when that happened. Like
Yep.
I was not mentally there.
Yeah, I kept trying to convince myself not to unalive myself because it kept popping in my
Right.
head, and I was like, no, I can do this, and it helped that I had Shan, and that was still pretty fresh because it gave me a kind of a reason. But yeah, I went through all that, and I ended up. I think after that point, I ended up staying sober for 3 months. somewhere around there. It was a pretty good amount of time, 3 4 months.
Yeah.
And then I had one day where my guy that was in the restaurant next to me, he was like, "Hey man, I haven't heard from you in a little bit," and I was like,
Right.
"Oh, I'm happy. I don't need anything." He was like, "Let me hook you up with this for free, homie." And back to it. I didn't have any tools. I didn't know what tools were. Didn't know shit. And that led to 3 more years, I think, of pill use and selling everything. And like I was making it work with Shan, but because it was the restaurant industry, I kept telling her like, oh, I don't have money because I didn't get enough tables that night or whatever.
Right. Like it's slow, everything's
Right.
slowed down because you're making a lot of money in the beginning. And then she's like, what's going on?
Well, and I got to the point I was working at the restaurant that he worked in, my guy, I ended up getting a job there because mine closed down and they had the slot machines and stuff. So I would go gambling every night if I didn't make enough, hoping that I would win, and somehow
Oh,
I usually did. So I'd walk out
wow.
with like 300, $400 when I just had 20, and I'm like, okay, cool. I can give Shan like 100 of this, and then I
Right.
can take 300 for some pills, and then I'll start working on getting more money, and everything's gonna be good. So that went on for a long time. I mean, we were broke as shit. I ended up getting another new job. I went through a million different dealers. I had a biker gang that was after me after a little bit because I was so broke. I was getting fronted from a dude, and I kept telling myself every time I got fronted, I was like, because I was getting fronted to sell this stuff. And
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So it was a decent amount.
and it was, well, and it was always 15s. And somehow before I would sell a few, but I would end up taking, I don't
Right.
know, the 80 to 115s within a matter of days. And then I was with nothing again, and I was
Yep.
scrambling trying to find the money. So I showed up one time to his place after he had been texting for probably like 2 weeks, telling me like, "Hey, I can't stop these guys any longer. Like they'll come kill you and your family." And I was freaking out because we had Carson at this point. Like, so if they came, I was prepared. I had weapons, do whatever I have to do. And I go to my dude's house because I finally came up on some cash. And I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm so sorry." I told him my phone broke or something, and I show up with the cash. And I'm like, "Here you go. I gave him like a hundred, $200 interest, all types of stuff. Gave that to him, and next thing I know, his dudes walk in the door, and they are ready to unalive me. And yeah, it turned
Wow.
into he talked them down and told them not to do it because I had kids, and I mean, they didn't care. But
Did it take you a while to get to the point of like, oh my God, they really are gonna do something to me? Like, were
no,
you
I knew
taking
they
it
would.
serious or were you not taking it serious?
I knew they would. That's why I was armed. That's why I had weapons in the house.
Wow.
Um, just because they aren't normally in the town that I'm in. They're like an hour and a half away, and I knew
Okay.
some things that they had done. So I understood what the consequences were of fucking with them, and I did it
Right.
anyways. So all that kind of happened. I was fortunate to get out, and shortly after that, I realized I was done. One of my guys, I ended up owing like $2,000 to also, and couldn't pay that back because he was fronting me too. So I ended up working security for him, and ended up like armed in his apartment while some very bad people were coming in. So yeah, it was a shitty situation after shitty situation.
And then this whole time you're thinking like, because you're not thinking, like that's why
Yeah,
you keep getting in these situations. It's
yeah.
not, you're not like, oh my God, my kids, or you're just looking for your next high.
You're just you're looking for your next high because you tell
Right.
yourself, whenever I get my next high, I'll be able to take care of all that stuff.
Right.
And
I'll fix this. I'll fix this tomorrow.
right, yeah. It'll all be
Yeah.
okay. So all that kind of happened, and then I hit a point where I was just like, I kind of got tired of it. I hit up my buddy Kojak because I started getting stuff from him again. And I told him, like, hey, man, this is what's going on. And he was like, all right, bet. So he had kind of been screwing me over a couple of times because he was hooked on stuff too. And when he would sell me pills, he'd shave off the numbers. So he
Yep.
was telling me he was giving me 10s or 7.5s, and he'd be giving me 5s.
I
And
remember that. I
yeah.
remember people shaving the pills, or I even remember buying pills one time. I thought I was buying an 80, and she comes back and she bit it. I'm like,
Mhm.
wait, you fucking bit that? Like that I paid $80 for that pill and you just ate half of it. Like I needed that.
Well, and they don't care. Like they
Right.
can do two shits. They know
And
what
you
they're
know what the
doing.
sad part is? As mad as I was, I didn't care either because guess what?
You
Whatever the
still
fuck
got
was
it.
left, I need it. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. It was shit. I didn't appreciate him doing that, but I told him
Right.
since he was doing it anyways, I was just like, dude, I need to get off this stuff. So I told him, I know you're shaving the shit. I know you're screwing me over. I don't care. Just taper me down. Just I'll come
Right.
to you. You tell me when you're good. Taper me down. Don't tell me what you're actually giving me. And he slowly did that to the point where it was like over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks, I was down to I would take like I don't know. It was probably like 10, 15 milligrams at once, and that would be it. And that would last me for like 2, 3 days. And I was just like, all right, cool, I'm good. I started exercising, I started doing like a lot of things right. And then, stupid me, I had got a new phone like right after that, and I left my old phone on my nightstand, and Shan had kind of just got a feeling something
Yep.
was up.
Yeah.
And I had my phone, but she looked at the old phone, got it to
Yep.
turn on, and she saw every conversation that I had had with however many people, however many thousands and thousands of dollars I had spent. Every time I said I was going to the grocery store or the gas station, I was really running to my homie's gym so I could pick up from him. And she ambushed me the next day and said, I found all this. What do you have to say for yourself? And I started crying and broke down.
Right.
It's like I had a serious problem, and I told her I haven't used for like at that point it had been like a week or so, and I was like, I haven't used it all. I'm clean. I promise. I'm clean. Everything's good. And she was like, none of that matters. You've been lying to me forever, and blah blah blah.
Right.
So all that goes down. She splits up with me, and we're still living in the same house. In the meantime, my response, even though I had finally got sober on my own, my response was to go get fucked up. So I started getting blackout drunk every night, would do 8 balls of cola literally every night. Would take whatever I had in front of me, it didn't matter. I was fucking around with a couple of girls, so I kept telling myself, like, oh, I'll be good. I can get whoever I want. It doesn't matter. And yeah, it was this really shitty place.
Did you feel betrayed? Is that why it almost set you off? Like knowing that someone went through your phone? Like,
Yeah,
did that trigger you almost?
yeah, it did. But I mean, she had every right to.
Absolutely. I agree. I'm on her side.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was the one that was fucking up.
Right.
Um,
And when a woman knows, a woman knows. Put it to,
oh yeah.
it's like a gut instinct.
Well, and I was all upset because it was like I wasn't just losing her. I was losing the kids.
Right.
And Jax was losing, a actual mom that takes care of him. And I was putting Carson through the same thing that Jax went through. Um,
And you never meant to do any of this. As
right,
parents, we're
right.
not like, oh my God, we're going to F up our whole life today. It happens because we're not thinking clearly and making
Yeah.
good choices.
You keep telling yourself you can fix it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah, all that stuff went down. I I ended up like 2 days after I moved back into my parents' house. It was Father's Day, and I showed up to pick the kids up, was told to go inside while they were getting in the car.
I know this. I know
Yeah,
what you're
you
going
know
to
this
say
part.
next, dude. I know.
So they were going with Shan's sister-in-law and brother, and I had no idea what was going on.
Right.
Um, and I walk in, and my grandma is there, my parents, Shan.
When you walked in, you fucking knew what was coming, right? Like
Yeah.
you knew there was that all these people didn't come into a room for no
Well,
reason.
well, and there was this random woman there that I didn't know.
Yep,
And
intervention, baby,
yeah.
intervention.
Yep. So they got me. I ended up breaking down. I think I ended up confessing to my grandma uh, quite a few of the times that I was really in trouble. I went to my grandma and told her, like, I just told her we're so behind on bills.
Right.
We need help. And she would get a few thousand out, and that was usually how I paid the really bad debts. And she did that probably 4 or 5 times. She gave me like $10,000, $12,000, and uh, if she would give me $1,000, maybe 100 would go to bills, and the rest
Gotcha.
would go to pills. So I felt bad, and just I kind of gave in, and they were like, "Listen, you can go to rehab right now." Like the woman that was there, she was like, "You can go to rehab right now and get sober." And I'm like, "Well, I already was sober." And at this point, I had done it again where like I hadn't been using like crazy again. Uh,
Right.
I had finally caught up to myself whenever I almost wandered into traffic whenever I was blacked out. So I had kind of stopped, and I was like, I haven't used at all. I hadn't used for like a good week plus at this point. And I was like, I'm gonna be okay. I don't need to go to rehab. But Shan told me I had to.
You were probably very argumentative
Oh yeah,
because I know I've been there before. When you feel like people are doing that to you, you kind of like,
weird.
yeah, oh my God, dude, I know, man. I've been there before
You
and it's
just get
not a
a
good feeling.
you just get it's this, all of a sudden all these people are on you and telling you you
Right.
have to do this. It's it's a hard thing to like calm down in that moment.
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, I figured it out. I was like, all right, fine, I'll go to rehab because I knew I needed help. I no matter how much I wanted to admit it or not, I knew I needed help,
Right.
and went to rehab. Whenever I got there and intake and all that type of stuff was done, they were just that's when I got on subs. They literally told me I had never, literally, I don't think I had ever heard of subs up to this point. And they told me there's this thing, you can take these and you won't have cravings, you'll be okay, and you'll be normal, and everything will be perfect, and it's gonna save you. And I didn't want to be on anything else because I hadn't been on anything for the past week. So I'm like, I'll be
Right.
okay. And Shan told me the doctor basically like cornered Shan and my mom and all types of people, and she was just like, if he doesn't get on these, he will unalive. So Shan and my mom were like, you have to get on these, and Shan was like, if you don't get on these, you aren't gonna see Carson anymore.
So you at that time probably felt like your back was up against the wall. You wanted to still have that relationship with Shan. You wanted to still have that relationship with your kids. And then you knew that like if you didn't do what they wanted you to do,
Then I was screwed. That
right.
right.
Absolutely.
And Shan and I had already had like that whole time that I was out being stupid. I mean, I was showing up at the house at like 4 o'clock in the morning and
Right.
smelling like pussy and booze. Like it was so it turned into a thing where once it got out, I told her a lot of the things that I did, like a lot. And she had told me like a long time ago that she would never take Carson from me like Annika had done with Jackson.
Right.
And then she went and did that. And it was a whole thing. And I felt super betrayed, which led to more issues. But so all this happens. They tell me to get on subs. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take the subs. Whatever. If it means I can see my kids, then fine. Go to rehab. Had a honestly fantastic experience. There were a lot of things that I didn't like. I thought the counselors and all that were kind of useless. But the group where we did like AA groups, basically, that was honestly great. But it was the people in there. It wasn't so much what it was.
So when you walked into those rooms, did you feel like, damn, these are my people. They understand me, like we vibe.
Yeah, just they
Right.
all knew the hurt like I did.
Right.
Like they had all been through the same shit, some of them worse. I mean, yeah, it was something I at least had people around me that if I told them what was going on, they would understand why. So
Right.
yeah, it was kind of, it was, I think that's just why it was so effective because it felt like there was like a community and people I could actually fucking talk to that knew what I was dealing with. And yeah, it was effective. And the subs were doing their job. I think while I was in there, I was only on like 8 milligrams a day.
Oh,
And
that's not bad. That's not high. That's good.
no, it was pretty low. And
Yeah.
then I was in there for 30 days. During that time, I had talked to Shan. And I found out that Shan had been in contact with one of the girls that I was messing with while we were split up. And she just asked what all we had done. And at the time, I'm very glad that the girl that I was messing with lied and said we had just kissed because I don't think Shan could have handled the real answers. But Shan was like, I can't think of you with another person. Like, I can't. So she was like, all right, I want to try this. We can get back together. You're better now. And then once that happened, I went to outpatient and I hit like this wall where I just wanted to get out because now I'm sober. Everything's cool. I've got this medication that's going to save me anyways that I can't use anything else while I'm on it. Everything's straight. I got my woman back. I'm happy. I'm not going to lose my kids. I'll have a place to go afterwards, all types of stuff.
Right.
And outpatient just turned into a shitty place.
I remember doing outpatient and I would make certain little friendships and then we would be like making our escape plan for not like, oh, I'm going to do this and you can meet me here. We could go there.
Well, and I made those same escape plans.
Right. I think
But
we all do.
well, before I left, so in my room, there were four of us. Before I left, the first guy that moved out, he was an alcoholic and his name was Mikey. He was out for 2 days before he hung himself. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and then the next guy came in. He was in there, and one of the other guys got out, and like it had only been like 5 days, and he OD'd. It's everybody that was in my room with me.
So it was a very tragic thing. Like
Yeah,
here you are in a room with people trying to get their life together. And then,
they all died,
wow,
all of them,
wow.
and it was plenty of other people that I was with too, and like yeah, it was a whole bunch of that. But yeah, once that was over, I mean, I got through that, went through the whole AA NA thing, and that was uh, it was very helpful. I think AA was very helpful, just because the guys that I was with were really good. They were old school, and they didn't give a shit what you did. Like they didn't care
Right.
if you were there for blow or whatever. They just wanted you to be there and be sober. So they were super cool. The NA place that I was at, I didn't like them as much. I mean, I made it work, and I had a couple of guys. One of the guys that I used to use with, he was in there with me. So it was okay. It just, I don't know. It wasn't the same connection, I guess. But
Right.
I ended up running those for a while, and then COVID hit, and we kind of like lost contact, and we were trying to do internet stuff, and it just didn't work. So yeah, I was still on subs, was holding a job, everything was fine, and then I started noticing on subs like I just didn't have the same emotions. Uh, I I used to I'm a dude. I was a young dude and I was married for quite some time while I was young. So I like to fool around, do some things like that, and it was something that I usually did every day, if not every other day, and all of a sudden like I would not want to have sex for like weeks at a time. And
Right.
it,
You
like
could tell that it did something.
yeah, it was that my teeth started breaking and I just started to feel unhappy. So I said,
Well, I
fuck
look at
it.
it this way. Everyone recovers differently.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
have to really, like, I just want to make sure that people know this that are here that we fully support MAT, even though Kyle and
Oh,
I are
yeah.
both off of it at this point. It's something that I always advise people to get on because honestly, it helps you to get away.
Yep.
Like,
Well, and who knows at first if someone would have came on with like, if someone would have had some pills and been like, hey, man, you want these? That first little bit when I was out of rehab, who knows what the answer would have been?
right.
I don't know. Now I cut all those people out of my life. I didn't have anybody to go to anymore. But if someone would have offered, I probably would have took it,
Right.
even with my sober time and everything. But subs subs have their place, and they are 100% that like if you have no other options to, that is an option that you can use. And it's just because some people have negative side effects, it doesn't mean that everyone does. First off,
And that's no different than like methadone with me.
yeah,
I could not take methadone because
yeah.
I could not take it correctly because honestly, I loved methadone. Like
So,
I wanted more and more and more and more and more. And once I couldn't get that, like what I just know that I wasn't ready for recovery. Put it to you that way. Was
yeah.
not ready. Was still in that effing around mindset.
Well, and that was my thing. I was ready for recovery, and I felt like subs weren't recovery because I was forced on them. If I would have still
Okay.
been using and then would have been given subs and like these are going to help you stop using, I think that would have completely changed my mindset in the beginning, but it wasn't like that. I had to get on these, even though I wasn't using anything anymore at the time.
I understand. You felt
Yeah.
there's a lot of emotions that go into that for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know. And then I decided I was gonna do this and share my story. While I was trying to get off subs, while I was trying to taper, I was watching this guy, I think his name's Gabe McCall on YouTube. And he did the same thing and did his journey and everything. And I was like, you know what? I want to help people because he is helping me. Every time I have a
Right.
really bad day, I would watch some of his videos and it would make a difference. And I was like, let me see if I can do that for somebody else. And
Was it hard? Was it hard for you to put yourself out there at first?
yeah,
Because I feel like you have a more shy personality. So I know that it had to take a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. So that's amazing that you started to come out of your shell. Think
I
about
was
it.
definitely shy. Yeah. I'm glad I started doing other videos first because I was already kind of creating content once I decided that was going to be my hobby for getting off the subs. I was like,
Right.
okay, cool. Let me do like random videos on how to use apps and stuff like that. So I built up my confidence a little bit with the camera stuff, and the only thing I was worried about whenever it came to actually doing this, I think I was worried about my job. Like if they found out, what would happen. I was worried what would my friends think, because no one knew I was on subs. No one knew everything I had done. So yeah, I was more worried about like I'm gonna ruin my career or something because of this. But I had just started my business whenever I started doing this too, so that kind of helped, where if something did happen with the job, I was like, even though I'm not making money with it yet, at least I have this. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
I'm curious to know about like with your wife as well, because that going through situations like that change a relationship. No matter what anyone says, it completely changes things. And like, how did is she still healing? Like, do you guys talk about it?
We don't really talk about it anymore, and I don't think she's still healing. There was a lot of talking once I got out of rehab and we got back together. One thing that I think it kind of like hurt the process really, really bad was the subs, because of the negative side effects. Because I'm an affectionate person whenever I'm with somebody. Like I'm gonna give you hugs and kisses and tell you I love you and smack you on the butt, whatever I need to do.
See, now hold on. I'm completely a little surprised by that. I swear to God, I am. Because you seem more shy and reserved. And the fact that you're like outgoing like that kind of surprises me.
Well, and the shy thing started happening when the anxiety started coming, and that,
See?
yeah,
Because you're getting back to your real true self prior to the addiction, I feel like.
yeah.
And that's all the things that you numbed over the years.
Well, I don't know. I've always had decent confidence in relationships, but I feel like that got skewed because like I had Amanda, and like before that I had this girl Brandy, and like I had all these girls that were uh it was to the point when I left them, like one girl became a lesbian because she decided she was never gonna have be with a guy
I got
again.
okay.
It's
You did wonders. You
it's
did wonders on them.
Yeah, well, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I got confident with the ladies, I guess. So it was weird whenever that kind of changed because of
Right.
because it started like taking things away.
And then it changes your other aspects of your relationship
Yeah.
that she was probably thinking like, is there something wrong with me? Because
Right.
like as a woman, that's the first thing I would be like, oh my God, it's
Well, and
me.
we had said a lot of hurtful things to each other
Yep.
when we were in that split up period, and I didn't know if we could recover from that. So then like everything's kind of okay, but there's some tension. Like before, if me and Shan were on the couch, she was laying on me or I was laying on her or something. We were together, and that stopped. We
Right.
would sit next to each other and we would be fine, but we weren't close like that anymore.
There was a distance, like a disconnect in the relationship.
Right. And
Right.
it's not, I try and explain this all the time and I don't know how. It's not that I didn't want there to be
I
that
know.
connection.
I
It's
know.
just it's gone.
Right.
It's something that again the subs can do to you that you just don't care to just to do that. It's weird.
So it turned more into like a friendship than an actual relationship almost. Like, okay, we
Instantly.
have kids together, we're just chilling, like
Right.
eating dinner together.
We were
Yeah.
friends with benefits. And then
Hold on, friends with limited benefits though.
there you go. Yeah, there you go. And it's all that happened, and it's kind of, I don't know. I was disappointed because I wanted my wife back, and so yeah, once I got off the subs, obviously I had to go through the withdrawal, which that was a whole process because
Why did you decide to cold turkey instead of taper?
I tried to taper. Every time I would taper, I would end up going back up. And like, so I would drop from 3 to 2.5. and then I'd have a bad day and I'd go back up to 3 and I'd tell myself it's just going to be for today. But then it would be the next day too, and I'd have to get back on a routine, and it just
So it was hard to control for you. Like
Mhm.
you wanted to continuously keep going up or,
I had to be
oh, a little
all
bit
or
more.
nothing. I had to be all
Right.
or nothing. Yeah. So and my doctor wasn't happy about it. I planned it. I planned it with my doctor. Everything. He knew I was doing cold turkey.
Did you get comfort meds like clonidine,
No,
anything like that?
I
Did you
didn't
ever
want
pick?
any of that.
Okay.
I,
Wow.
I did not. I did not want anything altering me anymore. And I mean, that was a personal choice that I absolutely do not recommend, but it's what I wanted. And I wanted to go through every single freaking symptom that you could have going through withdrawal and figure out anything and everything that will fix it the whole time I was withdrawing. So the whole time I'm going through self withdrawals and working and running a business and doing a social media account, I was
Wow.
I was literally taking individual symptoms like anxiety, what foods will help, what I don't know, meditation and breathing will help, and anything I could find, and testing them and then reporting back to everybody what was.
So what did you find that helped the most?
Uh, I think one of the biggest things, if you really needed energy and you needed to wake up because you went like days where you were just kind of in a funk, an ice bath, it will absolutely wake you up.
That's good for your mental health as well.
Right. It
Right.
helps
Soaking your
rebuild,
head.
restart everything. I think learning that heat kind of sucks for withdrawals. You don't want the heat because it helps temporarily and it does a little bit for pain. But if you have like cold on your legs, especially, it'll help way more with the pain. It'll actually last long term. And then whenever you're trying to sleep, if you use cold and then you use like the little massaging things, oh my gosh, it does so good for restless leg.
Now, see, for me, if I was withdrawing, I couldn't think about some kind of massagey thing or like
I
getting an
had
ice
to.
pack. Like, dude,
That
I
was
don't
my
know. That's where we
job.
think differently, though. That's where we're different, though. Like, I wouldn't be able to get out of the spot that I was fucking sitting in all day. It wouldn't happen.
Oh, see, I can't do that. That's how I used to be. That's how I used to
Okay.
be every time I would withdraw, which is why I had to get up and go, which so many people said the same thing. I was on
I
like
don't know how you did that. Because honestly, there were days where I would be withdrawing and like I could not get, like, I would just be there. I'd be thirsty. I wouldn't even get up to get a drink. I would just like laying like a lump on a log.
if you let yourself get in that routine though, that's how it will be like that, and it's hard to move. But if you start off and you're constantly going and you force yourself to do the things you don't want to, you'll be fine. And it's Suboxone is different than everything else because all the other things it's even harder to do stuff like that because like pills it's more intense for a short period of time. Subs, it's some things are like really intense for a day and then they drop down and they go back a little bit. Then
Because I think that that's because of the half life.
yeah, which it is. It makes it so the withdrawal is not as bad. It
Right.
is it is nowhere near as intense as H, Fent, Ox. It doesn't matter. It's nowhere near as intense. The problem is it lasts so fucking long. It wears you down, and the mental strength it takes to go into a sub withdrawal and be like, this could last for 2 or 3 months
Right.
that alone will make you fuck up.
That's how it was with methadone with me. That withdrawal was months and months and months and months of me
Was it
not feeling
really?
well. Dude, I was taking way over 1,000 milligrams a day. I was with benzos. It was horrible, dude. I was sick for months.
Oh, didn't you stop the benzos at the same time too?
Right. I stopped the benzo and the methadone, and I was taking like way high amounts. And it was just like all at once, my body was like shutting down.
I wonder how much of that was the benzos.
I think a lot of it was the benzos.
Yeah.
I do. Now that I look back, I think definitely. But it's like when you go through something like that, it is so hard to to come back. Like
Oh
you have
yeah.
to put so much determination into that. Like
Yeah, it's hard. All right, I think we're gonna call it with that because I cannot remember what time we're supposed to go to church, and I think
all good. Hey, listen, it's a holiday. We appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to come on today. Seriously.
Yep.
And you guys are amazing. Thank you for continuously showing up for us.
Yeah, for real. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you all have a good one.